Yeah.
Okay.
That's up, please.
One person waiting there.
Is
Good evening.
we're live
yeah,
on
yeah,
Facebook.
yeah.
I'm going to ask if Ian's in. Yeah, good.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So I think we'll start the open forum. Let me first of all just welcome everybody that's come in. We're trying this experimentally, so it's nice to see some residents joining us on the call. As you know, we're trying to improve public participation by providing three methods of asking questions. You could have sent a question through to the clerk or any councillor beforehand, but to be honest, we haven't actually had any come in that way. So we're trying two other ways of doing it. One is by inviting you to join the meeting live for the open forum part. I'm afraid we will have to ask you to leave at the end of the open forum for when the council meeting starts, but you can continue to watch either on Facebook or on YouTube. But obviously in the council meeting, you can't actually participate anyway. And then the third method of asking questions is via the Facebook page. So there are comments or opportunities, obviously, to comment on the Facebook stream. And if you want to put a question in there, you can put that in, and Russell's monitoring that, and he will read out any questions that come in. They will have to be asked in the open forum only. We can't commit to sort of an open-ended answering of questions afterwards. So we'll do our best, but normally it's a live thing in the open forum. So that's what I want to do by way of introduction. Now this evening we do have the highlight of the meeting is our new PCSO, Josh Richardson, who's going to talk to us, introduce himself and talk to us about what he's been doing and what's been going on in Castlethorpe. And Josh, if you let me know when you want me to put up the crime stats, and I'll do that. Okay.
That's great. Cheers, Phil. I wouldn't really say a highlight. Only just started. Not really much has gone on in Castlethorpe at the moment. There's been a few issues down Thrupp Close in terms of parking. So far, that's really the main thing that's happened. But things I believe are happening but aren't being called in. So what I need is people to call in on 101 for anything, if they notice anything. Or if they don't want to and they just want to speak to me directly. I mean, obviously they can on here, or my email address will be at the bottom of the crime statistics that Phil will be putting up. If you'd like to put the crime statistics up now, Phil, that would be great. I've literally just been comparing the past 6 months from 6 months gone and the 6 months last year as well. So I don't know if you can see that, but obviously the green means it's good, it's got better. Yellow stayed neutral and red has got worse. In terms of overalls, obviously there is less. I'm going to mainly put that down to COVID though. Due to COVID, people staying in, not going out much. So in short, COVID has been good to us to a certain extent, but I've got a feeling these figures might end up creeping up when COVID does come back. I mean, if anyone wants to ask any questions about what they see, I can't give details, but well, I'm ready for any questions that people have got to throw at me at the moment.
Josh, can I just ask a question? Because I know when we've had crime statistics in the past, and particularly when they've been presented at the NAG, sometimes the statistics aren't quite what they seem in terms of location. Like I remember some crimes that were actually being committed outside of Castlethorpe, I think it was, but because a Castlethorpe resident was involved, it was classed as a Castlethorpe crime. You know, I mean, obviously the assault with injury, and without, obviously you can't go into any details, but was that in Castlethorpe, and was that, you know, with Castlethorpe people, or was it?
I'll be honest, in terms of those kind of details, I've not gone into exact details. I've literally just gone on our system and I've put in any issues, crimes in Castlethorpe. So I did specify in Castlethorpe. Whether that might have taken any down, say, Castlethorpe Road leaning into Hanslope, I'm not aware of. but these should all just be within Castlethorpe itself.
Okay, thanks, Josh. Has anyone else got any questions that they'd like to ask on this? Shall I switch back? Shall I stop sharing the screen?
Chair,
And also,
Chair, we had a spate of burglaries around New Year. Does Josh have any information on the outcome of those?
Oh, I'm afraid no, I don't have the outcome of those at all. I've literally only properly started from February.
Oh, that's fair enough. Yeah.
If you'd like, John, I can look into them and give you what details I can do. If you want the details.
Yeah, when you get a moment, Josh, that'll be fine.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
That's all right.
Phil, if I can ask a question, please. Good evening, Josh. My name is George Bowyer. I'm one of the ward councillors for Newport Pagnell and Hanslope. I'm just interested, what size of an area do you cover?
So I cover rural West and Newport Pagnell. So I cover Hanslope, Castlethorpe, Havisham, Little Limford, Tattle End, and then Newport. I do dip into other areas, other villages and Olney, but they're my main areas.
So pretty much the whole of Andrew, Geary and my ward then?
Most likely, yes. So
Yeah,
no
with
doubt
the
be
exception of
speaking more in
Stoke
the future.
Goldington.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd just like to say that the Facebook feed is about 40 seconds behind. We've got 15 people watching, but no questions at the moment.
okay. Well, if there's nothing else for Josh, I'm speaking slowly to allow 15 seconds to go by. But if there are no more questions for Josh,
yeah.
Oh, you've got one. You've got one. Okay.
Yes, I have. Yes, a lot of complaints over a few months. I think the lady was having a house done, but the terrible parking at the bottom Bullington Inn Road when we come up to the junction. Been quite a few near accidents at the bottom there because the cars just parked around the corner.
Sorry, could you repeat that for me? There's a car parked where? Sorry, and it's
There was
blocking.
two or three cars parked at the bottom of Bullington Inn Road. So when you come round from North Street up Bullington Inn Road, there was quite a few number of cars. It has eased off the last few weeks, but it has been quite hilarious as to watching people how they come round the corner and have to slam their anchors on. So people were asking me, is there any chance of easing it off? It has eased off a bit, but our motor's just parking around the corner.
Okay, I can take a look at that for you. I mean, I'm not too sure what outcomes I can give, but I will look into that for you to see what I can do.
Not a problem. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, in that case, thank you very much, Josh, for joining us tonight. You're very welcome to stay as we move on, but you may prefer to do other things. Anyway, thank you very much indeed.
That's right. Thank you.
Right. Now, can I ask members of the public if there are any questions that they would like to raise generally of the parish council? No.
All quiet.
All quiet. Right. We have got one letter, and Ian, I think I don't know if you've read the papers that have come out for tonight, and obviously you can't speak on agenda item 7.2 in the meeting.
Right.
But there is a letter that was received this afternoon, which does refer to that agenda item. So,
Can I speak on it now then, please?
Well, would you like me to read the letter first?
I've got the letter. Well, I think the public ought to know what the letter says. Yes, please.
Yes. Okay. So I'll share this now so that those of us on the call can see. Right. So you should be able to see there that the letter says, "Dear Parish Council, I'm writing with great concern concerning the letters by Kirkby Diamond and the application made by Mrs. Markham and her respective family members, Ian and Martin. Apologies for any omissions, but I do not know if there are any other family members involved. Firstly, I would like to emphasise what a terrible shame it is that the Markham family, who've represented the farming industry for many years here in Castlethorpe, have decided to make this application, erecting an estate of approximately 40 houses on their farming land at the end of Bullington End Road would destroy the tranquility that their farmland has previously brought to the village. As we already know, Castlethorpe and the surrounding villages do not have the infrastructural facilities to support the scale of development. Secondly, the neighbourhood plan has already allocated several areas in and around Castlethorpe for development in the future. Further, unnecessarily large developments are simply not viable for the village or for the local community. This shameful application should be viewed in the context of our already full to capacity local schools, limited transport system, and doctor's surgery that currently provide excellent services. The standard of services that the local communities receive and deserve cannot and will not be maintained in the aftermath of the extensive proposed development. I would also like to take this opportunity to mention that Mrs. Markham, mother of Ian and Martin, is an invaluable member of the village community who spent many years supporting our local children by reading to them at Castlethorpe School. I personally spoke to Mrs. Markham on many occasions. She always seemed adamant that nothing would ever be built on her land. I'm deeply saddened and shocked, as I'm sure many others will be too, as news of this circulates around the village, that the very well-respected Mrs. Markham may potentially now leave this legacy. This development would create a legacy which is disappointing and distressing for the local villagers of Castlethorpe, who wish to continue to live in, work from, support and respect such an idyllic village. On behalf of the local village community and generations to come, I hope that this application is not accepted. This request for extensive building works only exists to serve the greed of the owners or potential owners of the land. It demonstrates a complete disregard for the community, local services and future of the village. Also, I'd like to voice the concern of the people who live and thrive in Castlethorpe in the hope that the Markham family recognise the wider impact of their application to build an unnecessary housing site. So, Ian, do you want to respond to that?
Yes, well, I've got names blanked out at the top of who it's from, which if somebody's that's concerned, the name should be revealed who it is. No. B, it says the 13th of the 8th, and we're only on the 2nd of the 8th. So that's something wrong. And usually you don't say at a meeting that you've had a correspondent in at the beginning of a meeting. Usually it's on the agenda, you've had a correspondence. At the end of the day, if that person knew my mother that well, she would know she had got 4 children, which is Martin, Alan, me, Michelle. Full stop on that one. I've declared interest before. I am going to declare my interest now is I am the sitting tenant on that land, and what my brothers and sister, whoever is in control of this with my mother, is nothing to do with me. I sit as a sitting tenant, and I have agreed to get any land to be given up, if necessary, to help my mother's issue. At the end of the day, my mother said this, and many a time it won't happen, same as many people say it doesn't happen in other villages. But at the end of the day, circumstances change and villages change, and the village needs to change as we go along. At the end of the day, we've got a site down the road which we've got horrendous problems with, which is being reviewed, and I'm sure whoever took this up, it was taken up, the village would receive the full 106 money, whereas we're having a job to get the money to keep the village going. Subject closed. Anybody ask me a question, please?
Can I just make 2 points on his first remark? Yes, I redacted the person's name on the letter. It was written to the parish council. The person doesn't need to be named. Secondly, members of the public were invited to submit anything to be read out in the open session due to the change in the nature of the meeting. We invite people to give anything to the clerk or any councillor to be read out during the public session. So that's what's happened. So that's completely in order. With regard to the date.
So if this letter only was delivered to me this afternoon, nobody else had a chance to react to it tonight.
Well, all the councillors.
Not even seen it.
The letter was addressed to the councillors, well, to the parish council, and it's been circulated to all the councillors. And on the matter of the date, it's a mistake. I genuinely received that letter today. The wrong date's been put on it by the sender. Nothing sinister, nothing more sinister than that.
This is what I can't understand. If it was dated the 13th of the 8th, why is it being taken up?
No, Ian, can we just think if you want to respond to any of the points on it? And the other reason I wanted to invite you to speak now is, and the reason I spoke to Steve earlier today when this letter came in, or well, earlier today, it was late this afternoon, was because obviously it refers to agenda item 7.2. So Steve and I decided that we ought to discuss it in the open forum, rather than after the agenda item has been discussed. It could be a bit pointless. Right. Now, you'll be aware also that there is a draft response to the examiner that we're going to discuss in 7.2, which again you can't speak to. Do you wish to make any comments on that?
I haven't had a chance to read it. As I say, it's not my problem. I am a sitting tenant, and the family are doing what they need to do for the support of my mother, full stop. And as what I said, I can't understand in this letter that's come up, he knows the family well. Why did he name me first and Martin second? If he knew my mother that well, how did he not know there was another two in the family?
Okay, Ian,
that's what I can't understand. Who sent the letter? Was it cocked up by somebody somewhere along the line? So it was brought up and covered a few pieces that's going to be discussed later on.
Okay. Well,
I can confirm that letter was received by me and has been published in its entirety. Nothing has been changed apart from the person's name's been removed.
Okay. All right. Well, look,
I think that if it's anonymous like that, it should be submitted. It can't be taken in. Sorry.
It's not anonymous, it's redacted. There is a difference. We don't publish necessarily everybody's names and details. We quite often hold back. But look, if you've got no more comments on the substance of the letter, I suggest we move on.
Chair, just before you do move on from that one, it's a point relating to this. I haven't seen, can I assume from the way the letter's read, that what it's referring to is an application for the land to be included in the neighbourhood plan as opposed to a formal planning application to Milton Keynes Council?
Yeah.
Thank you, Andrew.
Fine, in which case, I don't think I have got anything to declare. But I should just state that I think it's fairly widely known that Ian has granted me a grazing / mowing licence on one of his fields at Castlethorpe this year. So for the sake of transparency, I'll put that on the record, and I won't take any part in any discussion surrounding any land that might be involved.
Yeah, no.
Thank you, Andrew, because I didn't. Thank you, Andrew, because I didn't make that thing. It is not a planning application. It's apparently my family or others have put in to have it included in the village plan.
That's why I assessed it, because I hadn't seen a planning application about it. But thank you for clarifying, Phil.
Right. Okay.
Phil, before we move.
Excuse me, before we move on, can I contribute to this discussion, please?
Yes, you may indeed. Yeah, sorry, who is this speaking?
This is Mrs. Jeffers speaking here.
Okay.
I just wanted to know what right of reply there is to that letter, bearing in mind its contents.
What right of reply? Well,
yeah,
I've just given Ian... Because
of the terminology in which it's written, describing the application as shameful, I just wondered in what respect that if you're going to redact the person who wrote it, what comeback there is in relation to that sort of comment being put into an open forum.
Well, I've just given Ian an opportunity to reply to that. I'm not quite sure what else can be done. Have you got a particular suggestion that we should...
Well, I was just wondering why it was redacted, and the person who made those comments hasn't felt the need, or you haven't felt the need to disclose it, bearing in mind the tenor of the letter.
Well, I can only say that a lot of correspondence that we receive, when it's read out in public, it is redacted, just for just to, unless someone has given their agreement that it should be made more public.
As a general principle, I will redact anything received by a member of the public.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else before we move to the...
Yes, there's a comment on Facebook from Karen Russo. Says bin collection not done again in Maltingsfield and still not collected today. And Catherine Hyatt has said that she logged in on Friday and they didn't say when or if they will collect it.
Okay.
Chair, can I help? We had George and I and Bill had an email on Friday evening to say that that there were some bin collections that hadn't been completed, and the aim was either to complete them Saturday or yesterday. So if they still haven't been completed, Russell, sorry, did you have the exact addresses where they haven't been done?
Yeah, Maltingsfield.
Maltingsfield, thanks. Because George, unless you've looked in the last half hour, I haven't seen any emails tonight that have said that things are still incomplete. Therefore, I think we need to report it first thing in the morning.
Yeah, they definitely said they were planning to do it on Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay, ward councillors, are you going to do it, or do you? Because I normally get hold of Kevin Wilson and ask him. I've got a reasonably good working relationship, but are you got this in hand?
No, Phil, if you've got a direct line to Kevin, I mean I have as well. But if you want to do it, fine. We don't all need to do it as long as somebody's onto it. But there were areas of Hanslope didn't get done as well, and I've seen nothing that's complaining that any areas of Hanslope haven't now been done. So
okay, so it's they're saying Maltingsfield, yeah. I'll get that done. Okay. Anything else that's come in on the Facebook feed?
No, that's all at the moment.
Okay. All right. In that case, we'll now end the open forum and we'll move into the council meeting. So thank you very much to members of the public who've joined. And I'd appreciate it if you could now leave this meeting. You can continue, of course, on Facebook or YouTube to see. I hope this format's helped a little bit more with the public participation.
Oh, actually, Phil, Karen's come back again. She says it was because the cars park at the top of the road and the bin lorry can't get down.
Yeah, that is a general problem. They usually send a small collection vehicle in order to deal with that. But anyway, I'll raise it with. I'll mention its vehicles blocking.
So are we meant to leave the meeting now? Are we?
Yeah, if you would please. Yeah, you can join on Facebook. It just makes the screen management a bit easier, and you're not able to speak in the council meeting anyway. So it's sort of.
So we'll find you on Facebook. Yeah,
okay,
no worries.
Thank you very much for joining, Simon. Welcome. See you next month.
Cheers, Simon.
Yeah.
And we've got Linda also on there. Shall I?
How do I close it? Leave meeting.
Right. I think you're welcome to stay, Josh, if you want to just. But you can't speak now. Right. So let's move into the meeting itself.
I know Josh is still here. Is Coronation Street still not restarted?
Not yet.
No, the snooker's on, Andrew.
Right.
We've currently got 26 viewers. That's nearly as many as Corrie.
Right.
It's twice as many.
Gentlemen. Shall we? Apologies for absence. We certainly had them from Dave because of he had some family commitments tonight.
Also from Kay.
Kay also.
Yeah.
And that's it, isn't it? We've got 5 of us. Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah,
yeah.
5.
Fine. Okay. Good. Declarations of interest. So
7.2.
Yeah, I mean, we did have a discussion at the 2 meetings ago about when interest has got to be declared, and I have distributed a document called the Nolan Principles, which govern the behaviour that councillors have got to get. And just for absolute clarification for all councillors, because there was some discussion, as I say, a couple of meetings ago on this, it's if you've got any interest, if your family have got any interest, or if your friends have got any interest, then you do actually have to declare an interest and retire from the meeting. So it is really quite strict, and that's what we have to sort of follow.
Sorry, Chair, can I just mention to Ian, who won't have seen the payment schedule because they only completed it late, and to Russell, they both have items on the payment schedule. So if they could both declare an interest in that.
Do declare an interest in that.
We've got
Yes,
your
I
diesel.
understand, Steve. I understand that one.
Okay, Matt.
Okay. Right. Can we now move to the minutes of the 6th of July and indeed of the 1st of July? Now, so the 6th of July was a short meeting. No, 6th of July was the parish council meeting, and the 1st of July was a special meeting that just noted the physical inspection, risk assessment and action that we were taking on the reopening of the play areas and the outdoor gym due to the COVID restrictions being lifted by the government. And we just we had a meeting specifically to discuss what we were going to do, and we just really want to put that on the record. So first of all, the meeting of the 6th of July, are there any matters of fact that any councillor would like to raise?
No, because I couldn't get into the meeting till late.
Well, yeah, do let us know. If you can try calling in before the meeting starts, say from 7:20, Ian, and then we can help you if you've got a problem, or call me if you've got a problem before 7:30. But really, calling at 9:10 wasn't, just wasn't.
Yeah, well, I tried various ways of doing it, so there we are.
Right. So can I have a proposer, therefore, for the minutes of the 6th of July? I've got Russell and a seconder, John, and all in favour then vote. Darren, were you there? Yeah. Right. So it's unanimous of those attending. And I think we just need to note the minutes of the meeting of the 1st of July, don't we, Steve?
Mm-hmm. That'll be fine, Phil.
Yeah.
I
Right.
think either way.
Let's move on then to the clerk's report and see where we've got to on that. Hang on a minute. And I'd like to take this opportunity, Steve, for thanking you for putting me top of the list for an action that wasn't originally placed on me. And despite all the traumas of the preschool and the neighbourhood plan and the various work with highways done during the month, it is the one action that I actually haven't done.
It was entirely random, Phil, I can assure you.
Shame.
I would say I have attempted to ring him, seeing this on the top of the list. Oh dear. Anyway, I'll set up a meeting and I'll then invite any other parish councillors that want to attend just to talk about whether we're going to cut it down. This is about cleaning the war memorial and making sure the trees aren't dropping stuff on it immediately after it's cleaned. Right, does anyone want to raise any questions on the clerk's report?
Can I just make the point that section 4, I have been in touch with Tag and he has actually done the repointing and he has moved the clock.
Oh, right. Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Anything else on this? Item 6, as I mentioned, I was on a call with Sarah Evans, who's S106 administrator today, and I did mention this, so hopefully there'll be some progress. I can't guarantee that. Number 9, it's not that they're not working on the exercise. Strictly speaking, they are working on it. It's just a low priority to have new design for rural street nameplates. But that may be of interest to our ward councillors as well. 12, a little bit uncomfortable, Steve, with this, that you want to leave the preludic work until the next meeting? I know it was too late to go on the agenda for this meeting.
No.
Under Clerk's discretion, I really do think that zip wire ought to be tensioned at the very least.
No, Phil, I wasn't saying that we should leave the retensioning. I was saying we should leave the decision about what kind of maintenance contract to take out.
Ah,
So the retensioning, I was going to come on to that and say I've had a quote for, I think it was £250 to retension it and to show the handyman and any other interested parties how to do the retensioning themselves in future. And I was going to suggest that I go ahead and commission that.
Yeah, I
I'll
mean,
do that under my discretionary powers.
Yeah, as you know, I did ask whether it would be sensible, as we've got a call out from a play area specialist, to get them to look at the rest of the equipment. And I saw that John wrote saying that there are a couple of other items of equipment which could do with attention. Is that possible, Steve?
If there are things that need retention, let me know, and I'll make. If the guy can retention one bit of playground equipment, I'm sure he can do others.
Yeah.
So if you let me know what they are, I'll add that to the list of things to ask him to do.
Yeah, John.
yeah. It's not retention that we're concerned. There are the two seats on the small children's swing have both got cracks in, and I think it's been a victim of COVID and the lockdown. They haven't been attended to, but they do need it. And also the small child's roundabout has got a similar problem on the seats. So I would be grateful if we could get someone to look at that and put it right.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll look into that, John.
Thank you.
Even if it's just that they inspect it while they're here and then give us a quote, Steve, that would be helpful.
But apparently the guy that does the retentioning isn't the guy that does the inspection.
Ah.
So there are two different matters. But and the reason I'm not going ahead is if I ordered it's essentially that in a contract for maintaining on a regular basis.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
The parish council needs to make a decision. I can't cover that off within delegated powers.
No, it was literally just if there are some items. That's fair enough, Steve. What you said. It's yeah. Okay.
I must say, Chair, before you leave that just how popular the Fish Ponds play area has been since it's been allowed to reopen again. Virtually every day it's been well used by people of all ages.
I will say that when I reported it, both Proludic and the other company whose name escapes me were surprised that we hadn't been retentioning it on a quite regular basis. So that's, I think, a learning experience for us.
Yeah, well, I think they might have told us that it needed retensioning after 6 months, to be honest. But
I think you're right.
Yeah. Item 16. I think just to be clear here, I think Russell, Steve, and I were very heavily involved in the closure of preschool with them. I think the wording here is perhaps a little unfortunate. What really happened was that they did make a decision to close before they discussed with us. But once they'd made that decision, I think they were set on a route which, despite quite a lot of strenuous efforts, the fact was that they had no legal choice except to continue down that route. So I think it was a pity we couldn't get in beforehand. But I think the way it's worded here is very slightly harsh, really.
Okay.
Anything else anyone would like to raise on the clerk's report?
Yeah, item 15. I have actually marked out the pathway by the side of the village hall with intervals of 2 meters for people in case they need to queue. And I've also put up social distancing signs within the village hall, and also signs urging people to use the hand sanitizers.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you very much. Well, we'll pick up that under the reports in a moment.
Chair, under item 18, sagging in the centre of the road in the village reported to MKC.
Yes.
Has the sagging and huge crack in the road, or the hole that's been made by lorries going over it in Station Road, has that been reported to MKC as well?
No, I haven't actually. I reported the damage in North Street. I did walk up, as you know, I often see you. I didn't see I should have asked you when I passed you actually the other day. I'm not quite sure where it is, but could you just report it? Could you just perhaps take a photograph of it, attach the photo, report it with a marker, and then it's done, rather than going through a middleman, as it were.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do that. But report it through the council and normal systems.
Yeah,
I'll do that.
That's all I've done. Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, that's not quite true. I have reported it to Naveed actually, rather than through the system. But anyway, right. Are we done on the clerk's report?
All I want is number 19, where it says removal on non-HGV signs at Margin Field. Is that one of the reasons why the dustman lorry take a chance not to go down there, because it says no HGVs?
No, it's mainly to do with parked cars where they come.
I realise that, Russell. At the end of the day, the lorry drivers can say, "Well, we shan't go down there today. We've got enough to do."
Well, they could, but that's not the reason. And just to be clear, I've been pressing on this pretty much ever since it was put up. It has been agreed that it will be removed. It's just that MKC, I hadn't realised actually, and ward councillors might comment on this, but I was on a call last week, and the MKC, it was actually Sarah Gonzalez, said that actually they've got about 30% of staff furloughed. I mean,
right.
that staggered me, and of course that will affect this sort of service. They don't have people to go out with. Anyway, that's one of the things. Right, let's move on then, shall we? We'll defer item 4.2 until 7.2, because no point in doing the update until we get there. Village Hall update. Did you want to say any more than you've already said, Russell?
The loft boarding will be done next Tuesday of next week, the 11th. And I hope that Dave has organised a team on Saturday to take all the lights and things out of the loft, because it needs to be done before they can get in to actually do it.
Okay. Well, I can't speak to that. I mean,
no.
Yeah, I should give him a call, Russell.
Yeah, I think so. I was hoping to actually talk to him tonight. But,
that was I, Russell.
Yeah.
Okay.
And anyway, if anybody would like to come along, anyway, 9 o'clock on Saturday to give a hand, we would be very grateful.
Okay. Right.
There's all the support. Nobody come.
Okay. Next. Right. So we'll move on to planning applications then. So the first one is proposed siting of 40 static vans in lieu of 70 touring caravans at Cosgrove Park. This is for the benefit of our residents. Most of Cosgrove Park is actually in the parish of Castlethorpe. I don't think many people realise just how big Castlethorpe is. It runs from the dips on one side, and it runs right up to Yardley Gobian in the. Sorry, I don't mean Yardley Gobian. What's the one on the top of the hill?
Cosgrove.
Grafton Regis.
Grafton Regis runs right up to Grafton Regis. There, running along the railway line on one side and the River Tove on the other. So it's a big area, and this is in it. Anyway, does anyone have any comments to make on the replacement of these touring caravans by static vans?
Chairman, if I wouldn't normally interject and go first because it's for councillors, but I might just be able to help out here. I know I flagged this at your last meeting. I've had quite a lengthy conversation with Jeremy Lee, the case officer, on this one. Not just because it affects your parish significantly, but it also affects Havisham because that's the way they're going to bring all the vans in through. And I've had in the past when we've had large statics coming in via Foxcovert Lane in that way, they come up through Havisham and then Devil's Dip and in that way. And I've had numerous complaints, not that they're using the road, but at the time of day that they're using it. I rung Jeremy, who is actually one of our better planning officers and is usually pretty good at getting back to us. Had a conversation with him, and I said, look, I suspect at the end of the day, he actually pulled up and spoke to me as he was about to drive in the site for a site meeting with the applicant and to look at it. And he said, having looked at it on paper, the stark reality of this was that there really wasn't any particularly good planning reasons on which you could justify a refusal of that. However, of the application, or he didn't believe there was. That was kind of an informal comment, but that was his kind of view at the time. And I haven't heard anything to say it's changed. However, a traffic management plan to try and regulate how and when these vans got in and were delivered was something that could very much be done, and he'd welcome that. I made this point to Havisham a couple of weeks ago when they met. And what Jeremy's offered, if it is helpful, is on the assumption that he's likely to write this up for approval and an approved application and delegated powers, he'd be perfectly happy to sit down and chat with a representative or two of yourselves and of Havisham and possibly either myself or George or one of us to discuss the traffic management plan and the condition relating to that. So I don't know whether that's helpful in kind of framing any discussion you might want to have around it.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrew. I did look at the planning application, and very curiously, there is a so-called access plan on it, and the access plan is through Cosgrove. But I can't believe that they're going to bring the...
That's interesting.
Yeah.
They won't get them over that bridge.
No, I mean, I can't see. Now, the only thought that I had as you were speaking here is that may be the way that the access to the site happens after they're there. But it's not actually how the traffic management plan as you would normally have on a planning application. But I'd be very happy. I'm avoiding personal meetings at the moment still, but I'm very happy to join a video link with Jeremy if you want to do that.
Yeah, that's fine. Milton Keynes are not using Zoom. They say it's not secure enough. It's not right. They're not using that. They're really using Microsoft Teams. But I don't think that's beyond the realms of possibility. If pending the end of this discussion, and I haven't gone back to Jeremy yet, I've obviously spoken to Havisham who are happy to engage in that. Pending the end of this, I'll probably suggest that somebody from MKC sets up a video conference call, a Zoom, a Teams meeting at some point in the near future, certainly before Jeremy determines it, but that's entirely up to you.
Yeah, actually, no, that's fine.
Sorry, I'd be happy if you could get the meeting to agree that they're happy for you to represent the views of the parish council.
Yeah,
I'd be happier if the meeting sanctioned that.
Okay, is everyone happy with that?
Yep.
Well, the only other thing I've got to say, is, like you've been saying, I've been saying for a long time, a lot of this is in Castlethorpe Parish, where these homes are going. Are we entitled to any 106 payment or some money back out of it?
No, I've asked that before, and the answer's no.
All right.
I've asked. I've also asked Ian if we're entitled to any council tax on it, but apparently they're not paying.
Yeah, static caravans and holiday homes do not attract 106 contribution.
Okay.
Yes, but they've got to go through the land around here, which I think the bridge is not correct. But in the end, they've got to go through it. It's got to cost them some money.
Yeah. I mean, just to set expectations. I mean, we'll see what Jeremy can do, but the general principle is that it is public highway. They do have to go across farmland, but providing the farmer gives them permission and it's within his number of days that he's permitted to do, which Andrew's previously explained to us. It's very difficult to restrict them. The big thing that we've had is where they've ridden up on the verge and damaged the verge, but we have actually got into a system now. There's a lady at MKC, I think it's Paula Harris, but who has got a remedial plan set with them, and they actually come out now and supervise the caravans going down Fox Covert. so that you know, damage doesn't get incurred. Anyway, I'll join that if it's set up.
Can I just confirm, Chair, that we've got no comment to make to Milton Keynes Council planning? Only that we expect there to be a meeting. We don't want to make any.
I think perhaps if the meeting is, if councillors are happy, we can just express concern about the use of Fox Covert, which is a narrow residential road. It's 5.5 metre road for delivery of these very large mobile homes. You know, we do expect them. I think can we say, would councillors be happy to say we would like any access supervised by Cosgrove Park, you know, to ensure that no damage is done to the verge?
I think that's very reasonable, Chair, and I also feel we should have notice of when that's happening, because having been behind deliveries, it snarls up the traffic as well in Castlethorpe. We would be able to warn our villagers that such a potential delay would be there.
Okay. All right, we'll do that then. 5.2 is just a notification to reduce an ash tree. We don't normally comment on these, though I would take the opportunity. I'll make the general point and then just see if anyone's got any comments, but I would just make the point to draw to residents' attention that if you are trimming a tree and the tree is in the conservation area, you do need one of these TCA applications to get planning permission to do it. It's a zero cost one, but you do need to have it. And you can guess why I'm saying that. Speaking of someone who got one when he did his own apple tree. Does anyone have any comments to make about this application? Okay, let's move on then. Does anyone wish to raise anything on section 6, which is report back on previous planning applications?
6.6 presumably has been turned down, has it, Chair?
I don't know.
No, it's not been decided. It's still not been decided yet. The expiry date isn't due. I can't remember when it is, but it's still under consideration.
Have we supported the council? We did agree we were going to do that.
Yeah, we wrote and supported everything said by Yardy Parish Council, UK Waterways, and Northants Police.
And police, yeah, excellent.
Okay, let's move on then to resolutions. The first resolution is to agree a public excluded part 2 of the meeting. For members of the public watching, we've got to consider some supplier quotes for putting lighting in the village hall. And this is usually regarded as confidential because we're looking at the individual quotes given. So it's in a separate part of the meeting called part 2. And we will switch off the Facebook and YouTube feeds when we start the part 2 meeting. So I'll propose that we have a part 2. Can I have agreement from everybody else? I've got 1, 2.
No problem.
Darren, are you there? You're muted.
He's gone to sleep.
Yeah, no, he's there and he's back and he's waved his hand. That's good. Right, now the substantive item is 7.2, which is the response to the examiner of the neighbourhood plan. Now, Steve's got to declare, not Steve, Ian's got to declare his interest there. So what I'll do this time, and it's a different system, Ian, so I will be able to unmute you, but I'm going to mute you now, okay?
All right.
Right. Now, what has happened is that when what's called the Regulation 16, which is the MKC consultation, completed in July, I think it was 11th of July, the process is that the Milton Keynes Council then pass the responses that they've received and appoint an examiner. Now, as you may know, we did ask them to appoint Mr. Andrew Ashcroft as an examiner during the consultation so that he would be ready at the end of the consultation to continue. And Mr. Ashcroft is well known by Milton Keynes Council, by David Blandammer, who actually had him speak at a seminar that was run, or workshop that was run on neighbourhood planning shortly before lockdown. He's a very impressive chap. So we thought he might be the man for us. He's taken that up, and he has moved unbelievably quickly. And he has already sent out, which you should have received, what he calls his roadmap for assessing the Castlethorpe neighbourhood plan. And he has also now produced what he calls a request for clarification note. And this is the note that you will have received with your papers. So I just now need to pull this up, and I'll see if I can find it and share it. Which is, hold on a minute. Just give me a moment to find it. Oh, no. My apologies for this. I normally...
Chair, are you looking for the response to clarification document?
Yeah, it's all right. I'm just pulling it up now. And then
I was going to say it was with the papers.
Yeah, no, indeed, yes. Yeah, I put it there. Right, so I just want to now try and share this. There we go. So can everyone now see the screen, those of you that are on it, except Ian, but of course Ian can't speak anyway. But he's in, well, it's irrelevant for Ian. So there was a slightly longer document which he's published, where there were questions which were asked of, for example, Milton Keynes Council to confirm one or two things. And then there were what he called clarification matters for the parish council. And I just draw your attention to the very first one on here, policy CAS2, which was about the design for the Maltings 2 housing, where we had actually put, because frankly, because Stonewater had been, I think, a little bit disingenuous about the design criteria that were in the previous neighbourhood plan, we put in some clarification about what we meant. And he is asking here whether we were being a bit too prescriptive. I discussed this with David Blandammer, and he has suggested the wording in red, which you know, he feels will still maintain the styling that we want. It picks up the historic links to the housing styles in Castlethorpe, but it's slightly softer than the wording we had before. So I personally am happy with that, and I'm also particularly happy that if David Blandammer has done it, he will support that with the examiner. Now, the next bit is policy CAS 8. He's just asked some questions about the CCTV, but we cover that in more detail a little bit later on. He asked about the level of recorded activity in the field as to whether it's higher in Gobbies, to which I have replied, yes, I believe it is, which is what the video survey showed. And he gave some, asked us a couple of questions about the size of Castlefield and so on. It then goes on to a section called representations and asking us whether we'd like to comment on any of the representations. Now, of the statutory consultees, most had no comment. Anglian Water made a minor suggested addition for the purposes of policy CAS 8. The very special circumstances would include development required by a utility company to to fulfil their statutory obligations to their customers. I can't see, I mean, that's just, you know, boilerplate stuff. I'm reasonably happy with this. Okay. And 3 residents actually wrote in, all in support of the neighbourhood plan. Now, there are 2 substantive items. So before we go on to the first of those, which is the Kirkby Diamond response, can I ask if councillors have got any questions that they want to raise on the points in the clarification response so far? Okay.
I'm very happy with the work that's been done there, Chair. I think that looks good.
Okay, thank you. Right, the Kirkby Diamond response, which is the one which was for the Markham's suggestion. You know, basically what it seemed to be saying was that there'd been no consultation or consideration of the need for additional housing, and we consider that the scope of public consultation has been deficient. That seemed to be the premise of the paper that was put in. Now, I'm not going to read all of this lot out, but first of all, I've got 2 paragraphs there, which basically say, you know, we have considered additional housing. This is what we've got. We've already got 41 houses that have got planning permission. That's 31 in station, in Maltings 2, 9 in Station Yard, and 1 on Bert's plot, as I still call it. Mm-hmm. And that's out of, you know, 470. So we've got just under 10% we're proposing to increase the village by.
Chair, can I just clarify? Has the 9 on Station Yard, has the planning permission actually been enacted and therefore the conditions discharged and therefore they still have permission, or has the permission actually lapsed and expired?
As I believe, Simon Hill did do some groundworks in there, which keep the permission alive.
Okay, it's also maybe worth noting that whilst you've got an outline consent on Paddock Close, Maltings 2, whatever it is, the reserve matters hasn't been agreed, as we know, because it's an appeal and everything else. How long's the outline got to go before that expires?
I'm sorry, I missed what you said then. How did the...
How long has the outline got left to run before that expires? Because if the reserved matters on this one is refused, which we're expecting and anticipating and hoping it will be, does the outline run out anytime soon?
Can you remind me, is it 3 years? Leave your mic on while we're just doing it.
Sorry, yes, it is 3 years. But it wouldn't run out until at least the appeal has been determined. That I do know, because it puts it in abeyance.
Yeah, well, I mean, the appeal, I mean, I'd have to look and see when this was. I mean, obviously the outline planning, I would guess that the outline planning was probably done in 2017, because it was just before the neighbourhood plan.
That's what I thought, because didn't it have the I think it had permission, an outline permission, when your original neighbourhood plan was made, which would make it coming up to out of date. So the only issue of clarity I had on that was, you know, it may be better to change the word to presumption, you know, permission or presumption of permission, as opposed to it's got a permission, because if you don't want to have to renew your plan again if the permission lapses and runs out.
Okay, so if I put in there existing or presumptive, yeah,
that would probably work.
Do you know, this is right? Or whoops, there we go.
Very good.
Yeah, that should help.
That's good.
Right. Okay, so that was, you know, basically what was being said on the consultation for additional housing, and of course we were told that the indicative housing requirement was one dwelling, and therefore there was no need for any further allocation in this modification, and nobody's asked for extra housing. And then there's quite a long bit on the fact that it says that the consultation has been deficient, and I've just said this appears to be an assertion without any evidence. I mean, I almost don't know how you answer this, because there's a statutory process for the way in which you consult on a neighbourhood plan, and we not only abided by it, we actually exceeded it. For example, I can distinctly remember Neil Homer telling us that we did not need to have an open day, but we decided we wanted to do that for the village. Yeah. So we did that, and we did various other things as well. So I just find this, well, it's just, anyway, for the sake, to avoid any argument about it, I've also put down here the kind of history and the way in which the decisions are being made. And I know Ian can't speak, and so it's a bit unfair, but I find it really hard that his brother would claim that he wasn't aware of what was going on here. And to be honest, putting this in 9 days before the end of the consultation period on a process that's been running for 2 years, I just find, well, I suppose it's his brother, but I think it's pretty disgraceful, actually. But anyway, there we go. It's not happy about it, but I don't think it will go anywhere, because it's just not, it's just got no basis. So having said that, does any other councillor want to say anything about what's in this section?
No, it's pretty well summarised, Chair.
Okay.
Yep, agreed.
Right, moving on then to the next substantive item, which is Gobby's Field.
Bill, sorry, before you carry on, would you mind if I'm going to have to head off?
No.
Would you mind if I just say a quick couple of things, if that's all right?
Yeah, go.
In
Suspend
terms of
the meeting.
that's fine, thank you. In terms of Billington End Road, I'll be giving Ian a call tomorrow. I'm hoping he can still hear this.
He can, yes.
Steve, for the fly tipping, could I take your number so I can call you tomorrow just to discuss it?
Yeah, it's on the bottom of my email, Josh.
Okay, that's great. And John, in terms of the burglaries for the New Year's, can I take your email address or phone number, please?
I'll send it to you, Josh.
You'll send it to me? Okay, that's great.
Do that tomorrow.
That's great, thank you. I'll leave you to it. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, thank you for coming, Josh. Very well.
Cheers, thank you.
Cheers, Josh.
Thank you.
Right, so now moving to the discussion on Gobbies. They sent in, as you know, in the Regulation 14, which is the parish council consultation, a letter of objection, and we updated the draft neighbourhood plan to take account of what they were saying, because they were saying certain things, and we felt, well, that's because we hadn't explained ourselves very clearly. So we did that. This time, they've really, I think, particularly focused on attacking the CCTV survey that we did. And they're saying some things which are just wrong, some which are just silly. For you football fans, he's saying that if you can't see somebody's face on a video, you can't tell what they're doing, which may be true of some of the clubs you support, but anyway. Now, I've worked, as you might imagine, quite closely with Leo Dunwoody on this, who, as all of you, I hope, know, that he's a member of the Neighbourhood Plan Steering Group. And, you know, we worked up this, and I mean, they were basically saying, they were trying to disparage the CCTV survey, so we really attacked that. Anyway, it's a long piece of work. And again, I don't think it's reasonable to try and plow through this. But basically, there are 3 requirements of the National Planning Policy Framework for designation of an LGS. And I believe that we have met those 3. I'd have to go and look up what they are now, but we explicitly put on page 30 of the neighbourhood plan what those were and how we met them. And I hope that what we've written here, although it's quite lengthy, I hope that will basically address the points that Phillips have raised in their Regulation 16 or Milton Keynes consultation document or response. Does anyone have any comments?
What's SAM, please, Phil?
A scheduled ancient monument.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the obviously Castlefield is a SAM, the fish pond areas is a SAM, but actually it extends into the top of Gobbys Field as well. You know, you see the raised earthworks there, that's part of the scheduled ancient monument.
I thought it was about my predecessor in the mayoralty, because now he's back in the political forum. There's plenty of negative comments about him.
Oh,
Well, there we go.
crooks get that.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a good document, Chair. It's answered everything professionally and well, I think.
Right. Well, what I would like is the council's agreement then. I'll stop the sharing. The council's agreement that we give this to David Blandammer and that you allow the steering group permission to make any last minute adjustments that he feels that we ought to make. Because he has actually done some really quite good pieces of work for us on the neighbourhood plan. And for example, that suggestion on the very first point is his wording. And I think if he's supportive of it and there's an issue with the examiner, then having him on side would be good. So if you're agreeable to accept this wording of the neighbourhood plan, then subject to any further discussions with David Blandammer at MKC, I would appreciate that. Can we?
Phil, as you and I are members of the steering group, it needs to be proposed by either John, Darren, or Ian, doesn't it?
I'll propose it then.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I'll second.
Yeah, we're all good.
Thank you.
Right. Well, thank you very much for that. For any members of the public that are watching here, I mean, this is the document that we are using to try and get Gobbys Field protected as a local green space. And the response that you've just heard us discuss and that you may have been able to see on your screens is you know, a pretty critical response to a company called Phillips Planning Services, who are acting on the behalf of the owners of Gobbys, who clearly do not want it designated as a local green space. And they basically, as I say, tried to attack the survey. Originally, we made a number of assertions about the use of Gobbys Field. The first examiner said they were without evidence, and so he wasn't going to give them any weight. So we then did a quick village survey that you may remember, and asked for a second examiner just on that one point. But the lady who did it said she regarded the survey as anecdotal, which I thought was being a bit naughty. But anyway, she wouldn't accept it as an LGS. So we have to see whether this examiner will accept it, given the video evidence that we're now bringing forward. We can only hope that he will accept it. Okay, in that case, I will unmute Ian, and we'll continue with item 7.3. Okay, Ian, you're unmuted. 7.3. Russell.
Yeah, as you may know, there are 2 websites for the village. There's the long-standing castlethorpevillage.org.uk, and then there's the Parish Council website, castlethorpe-pc.gov.uk. Everything that's on the org.uk old site is now on the new site. And it seems it's very hard to actually update the old site compared to the new site, and it seems quite time intensive to have two sites, which basically now that we've got one site which has everything that's on the other one. So I'm proposing that we sort of rest the old site and just have a link from there to the new site as of the end of October.
I think if you were one of the fangs, you would call it deprecate. Anyway, I'm quite a heavy user of the websites because I use a lot of the village information, and I mean, I repeat, I think what I said last time, which is that I think Russell's done a fantastic job in producing the new website. It's much more accessible in terms of getting the information that you want. Or that I want, and I would I just never go to the old website anymore now. I mean, I just don't think it's necessary. So I think just deprecating it and signposting that to the new one would save a little bit of work.
A lot of work.
A lot of work. Okay. I mean, the only thing I will repeat that I do like are the photos that are at the top of the old one, but there we go. Can't have everything. Right, does anyone else wish to speak on this? Okay, can we agree then we allow the site to be deprecated? Yeah. Okay, very good. 7.4 is not to print publish a printed edition of the September Castlethorpe News.
Yes, we didn't print the June one for the reason that the printer was shut, and also there was nothing to put in it basically, apart from a couple of things that were put in on an online version instead. And basically, there's very little to put in it at the moment. So I think we should. My proposal is that we don't print it, but we just have the online version instead. Again.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say I'm in two minds on this. I mean, I did write a fairly lengthy article, you know, on what was going on with the parish council, particularly through the, you know, the COVID period. I normally get a little bit of feedback on, you know, what I've written, because people, you know, do read the news when it comes through their letterbox. They are very appreciative of it. And I had none at all on that. And I mean, we've often said in this village that the only way to communicate is actually by going out and leafleting. Now, I do agree that there's been quite a long-standing issue about you getting enough articles to make the newsletter worthwhile. And with most of the village groups on hold at the moment, you know, I can't see that you're going to get very much material. But you know, even if it was kind of a one-sheeter that, you know, I'd be prepared to write, and you could invite anybody else, you know, if they wanted to do that. You know, I personally would think that would be a bit more informative to the village, rather than just to have a stunning silence from the parish council. Two important questions or conditions that would need to be met, of course, is one, is the printer open now? And secondly, would the distribution team be prepared to deliver? I mean, I did distribute, there was a distribution done in the lockdown period, which was of the Regulation 16 leaflets from David Blandammer. And there was a team who was prepared to go around and deliver that. And I delivered, you know, my usual beat on that as well. So, you know, there have been people who've been prepared to do the delivering, but I don't know what other councillors think on this.
Well, maybe the people who are listening now, watching us now, could spread the word round, and then people can comment on Facebook and see what they think about it. and also anybody that wants to volunteer to distribute a printed version.
Well, Russell, I mean, I think that's a good idea. Could you, rather than asking just the people on the line to comment, could you actually put the suggestion on a Facebook post?
Yeah. Okay.
And just say that we're discussing whether to do this because we're worried about not being able to reach some of the people, but on the other hand, the amount of material is so small now. That's one thing, to see what the reaction is, and perhaps if people listening to this would take the trouble to comment on that. And the second thing is to write to the usual distribution team and see whether they're still willing to distribute. Because obviously, if they're not, then that would be an issue. John,
just on the same theme, Chair. If you were going to write an article, let us say an A4 sheet, two-sided,
yeah,
and Russell put that on Facebook, is it not beyond the wit of us to just run off 20 or 30 copies and leave them in the shop and other areas that are accessible for the village? Covers it both ways, that then.
That's a very good idea. I don't know whether there are you've got Venn diagrams, haven't you? Is there then a group of people who don't follow the internet or don't use the internet but don't go in the shop either?
I suspect very few.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Well, that's a good idea actually. I'd be supportive of that. Russell, what do you think? Yeah. Yeah, shall we go with that? Is everyone happy?
Well, can I say something, please?
Yeah.
Yeah. I found that Castlethorpe Village News was very helpful to me, i.e. Glenmore Farm, Hereford's, etc., etc. And obviously, you've all had a leaflet through your doors of Farm Drop Shop, which is Richard that's helped me since he was 12. He's now 34. I've got another lad that works for Robert Beasley. They've set up doing their things. And we would like, me and Pat would like to thank people. And Richard and Ollie would also like to thank the people for the fantastic response they've had through this coronavirus. And we'd still like to keep advertising one way or another, please.
Yeah.
You could actually, Ian, probably post that on Facebook because that Facebook.
I can turn the television on, and the lads are busy. There is somebody who has offered to come from Maltinsfield to help us out to do something like that, and to put it on the village website if they know how to do it. They can get in touch with you, Russell, then please.
Yeah, okay. And the other thing is also you can now advertise on the first and third Mondays of the month on the village Facebook page as well.
Right, whichever. I mean, that's not my cup of tea.
No, but I'm sure that people would be interested in if you were to do that.
One of your lads might do it for you, Ian.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, as I say, as a chap come from Maltins, had meet up with me regularly. A lot of people, they've come out the woodworms, and I much appreciate what the response I've had, or me and Pat have had, and what the lads have had responses, because it's, we've helped everybody out around locally with what they need to acquire to what they need to get, especially the old people, like Russell was saying, or John was saying, they haven't got access to all this modern technology.
Yeah. But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, you've got a business and you've got to work out how to advertise it in. I mean, obviously, if there is a printed document, we'd be very happy to put any adverts that people want to put on it. But the issue is that there isn't the material to sustain a full Castlethorpe.
I quite realise what you're saying. There isn't enough material to do a whole village Castlethorpe news. Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think we're kind of moving to John's suggestion, is it? And if Ian is possible for Ian to advertise on it, or well, he'll work out with you try and work out with your lad and Russell whether you can do some advertising. But
right,
I personally, I do think that John's suggestion of putting something that we can leave in the shop would be useful. Okay,
sorry.
is everyone happy with that?
Not entirely, Phil. I'm trying to record what you've agreed here, and there's been a lot doing and frying.
That we will produce, or Russell will produce, a PDF effectively, which will have an article, the usual article that I'll give as an update on the village. He'll see if anyone else wants to write anything, but I mean, I suspect with everybody in abeyance, there probably won't be. Though some of the village hall users, Pilates and Zumba, I think are starting up. They may wish to advertise that. But then we'll put
Pilates are actually starting the end of the month.
Yeah. And if there's a bit of space for, you know, what Ian is doing, that would be great, and anyone else who wants to advertise on it. Then John's suggestion is that is published on Facebook in a downloadable form, and hard copies are printed off and put in the shop, 20 or 30 copies, and people can pick it up if they want that. If it goes like hotcakes, we'll print some more off.
Okay, and you all agree to that, yeah?
Actually, it wouldn't be published on Facebook. It would have to be published downloaded from the parish council website.
Oh, because it's a PDF.
But advertised on Facebook.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's very good. Thank you. Right. Let's move on then to the RFO payment schedule.
I must declare an interest in this.
Declared an interest.
Hang on a minute. Now I'm just going to share a screen again. This is wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we need to, Eli's declared an interest. I think we need to read it out for Ian because Ian hasn't seen this. And Eli's declared an interest. He's entitled to know what's in it.
Okay. Oh, he's not had this, right?
No.
No, I only produced it 10 minutes before the meeting.
Yeah. There's a huge sum of money payable to our clerk.
That's too much.
There's the standing monthly order to RTM for landscaping. The big one actually this month is the portable goal posts for the football, 2,400. Then there's Glenmore Farm, the supply of diesel for the cutting the grass up at the sports ground, £126. Richard Wantner, who fitted the kitchen at the football pavilion and also does the emptying of the litter bins now for us, which incidentally I do think is working ever so well. Wonderful.
Correct.
That's £300 altogether. The refund for the steam cleaner at the village hall, which is £95. Some work that Brian Shaler has done on replacing a broken radiator valve and fixing some lights in the village hall, £226. A wasp's nest up at the sports ground, which Trey Fricker has fixed or dealt with for £60. And MK garden machinery servicing the strimmer, which is £47.95. These are totals including VAT, so obviously we get the VAT back. There's the usual direct debits for our utility companies.
I haven't had the bank statement for whatever reason, so I'm unable to put them in, but they're same as usual.
Right. So is everyone okay? Well, actually, who's left? It's John, Darren and me, isn't it?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah. Are we all happy?
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Okay. I'll sign that with you then, Steve, at some point, yeah?
So as Phil proposed it, and John seconded it.
And Darren agreed it.
Darren agreed it. Sorted.
Okay.
Right. Now, the next big one is receiving and approving the annual accounts for this financial year. Now, this is actually this is a very formal matter. The whole council does have to sign this off. Steve, what I'm going to try and do.
Okay.
I'm going to try and start sharing these. I wonder how I'm going to do that. Well, most of you have got them in your packs, haven't you?
Yes, I've got mine. I've read through most of it, and I've got to agree with what I looked at, and can't disagree.
Right.
And if you want me to step through it, Phil, if you either people can have it. Well, It's only the councillors that will have it.
Yeah.
So George and Andrew, I don't think have got it.
Wait a minute, give me half a moment just to.
George, Andrew, if you want a copy, I'll gladly send it to you.
Yeah, please.
I'm sorry, everyone, just give me half a moment to work out where I am on this. What I'm trying to do is to find the documents so I can put them up on the screen so that if anybody is still. Oh dear, oh dear. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm just struggling to find where I put the wretched things.
Do you want me to email them, Phil?
No, I can certainly find them from the email. Let me just go down to council meetings and pick up the.
Is this what John Olliff done?
It's part of it. Part of it is in.
Yeah.
Right.
What I saw of that was okay with me.
Right. So if I now go to Zoom and I share a screen, whoops, share a screen, and I think right, so this is page 1, which is just a pro forma.
Yeah, skip through that one.
And page 2 is just to show that the lists are all completed.
Yeah.
Page 3 is basically Jane has signed off everything that is applicable. That tick in K is simply to say that we're not covered by this requirement. Is that right, Steve?
That's correct, Phil. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So Jane is our internal auditor, and again, so that members of the public are aware of what's happening here, is all public bodies have got to have their accounts audited, and those accounts have got to be published on a website. The process is that you have an internal auditor who goes through it in quite a lot of detail, making sure that all the payments are right. You then go to an external auditor who basically just checks the processes that the internal auditor has gone through. Doesn't check the numbers again. He just checks that the internal auditor has followed the right process. So our internal auditor is a qualified accountant, Jane Olliff, who lives in the village, who's done this for us. And she, on the page you're looking at now, has signed this off as being the accounts are in good order.
Yeah, can I just make one comment on that, Phil? We haven't got Jane's report yet, but we have a slight slapped wrist for disobeying one of our standing orders. Well, it's a bit fluid. When we bought our notice board, our standing orders say that anything over 2,000 we should go out into open tender for. But what we did is we made a decision as to whether we would go for an off-the-shelf, so to speak, board, or a bespoke made board, and the parish council made the decision to go for something that was ready-made. Now, what we're meant to do, if it's over £2,000, is go out to open tender, like I said. But at the time, the board that we particularly liked wasn't made by anybody else. So there are three situations. Decision one was, do we spend 5,000 on a bespoke board or 2,000 on a ready-made board, which we made the decision ready-made. 2, the board itself wasn't over 2,000, it was 2,000. And 3, we didn't actually pay for all the board. Sorry, I've got a bit more to sound too. It was over 2,000. What we didn't take into consideration was the £500 for fitting it. And 3 was that we got a large amount of the board paid for by the people that destroyed the old one. So that combination of reasons caused us to just go and buy it without actually going out to tender. And I've explained all this to Jane, but we are going to get a bit of a slap wrist for it because the project, if you like, to replace it costs 2,500, and so we are technically not in line with our standing orders.
Yeah, I think our logic at the time was because we negotiated quite hard with the it's not Serco, but it was the Frosts, wasn't it?
Yeah, Frosts.
Or Frost Guard. We got £1,000 from their insurers and £1,000 from them. So the net cost to the parish council was only £500. And given the posts were rotten or partly rotten, and we're probably, you know, if you're depreciating it over whatever life, you know, that was, we felt that was very reasonable. But we saw ourselves as taking on an expenditure of £500. And that's why we approved it without going out to competitive tender. Jane is obviously right. We should have looked at it as an expenditure of 2,500 and gone to tender. Sure. So I think we do have to hold our hands out, but
yeah, it's a technicality, but we will get a bit of a slap wrist for it.
Okay, now this is the thing that we have to sign, and we do have to have a formal vote to accept this. So we have got agreeds all down there. As you say, we're waiting for the report, but I do have to sign this, and it does have to go to the external auditors by the end of August by law. Normally it has to go by the end of June, but because of COVID, the period was extended to the end of August, which is actually the reason why we're meeting today, because we don't normally meet in August, but there we go. Okay, so any questions on this for Steve?
Well, the only thing is, if you and Steve are only going to go to prison, I'm not a problem, is it?
I'll drop the chairman in it.
Yeah. It does say at the top of this page, we acknowledge as the members of Castlethorpe Parish Council. So I think they daisy chain us with the handcuffs, Ian.
Oh, right.
Anyway, does anyone have any questions?
That one.
Yeah. Okay. In that case, I will propose that we formally sign off these accounts. I think I need a seconder on this as a financial.
Second it.
Right. So Russell seconding, and all those in favour then.
As far as I can see, not a problem.
Okay. All right. That's unanimous then. Thank you very much. Stop staring that.
Did you want to go through the rest of it, Phil?
No. Did you want us to?
Not really. It's just that there are some, maybe there's financial considerations, but if you want to leave those to the next meeting.
Oh, so well, no, I'm quite happy to go through them if you want me to.
I just really, no, I don't think so. If you're all happy with this and you've all seen it circulated, it's just for information, really. The rest of it.
Well, I mean, I will just show residents.
Yeah.
I think that's because this is actually, I suppose you're quite right, Steve. This is quite an important screen. I mean, it does show the funds that the parish council has got, basically. And before you think, oh, that's masses and masses of money, I just remind everyone that there was a £50,000 bond that was given to the parish council when the developments were done up by the sports ground at Lodge Farm Court, Thrupp Close, and it was put in a bond was purchased, and the interest from the bond was meant to cover the maintenance of the sports ground. And of course, with interest rates being as they are, that doesn't happen these days, but it did used to make a contribution. So we effectively set aside 50,000 of that 100,000. The other 50,000, parish councils are meant to keep at least their precept as a contingency reserve. And for example, we are drawing on that at this very moment because COVID has shut the village hall, and we've got a loss of income. We've lost some of the costs, of course, but we still are getting, I think, Steve, you're estimating a cost of 5,000. No. £5,000 in the full year. I think it. Anyway,
I can't remember, Phil.
Yeah.
It was about, I think about 6,000
yeah,
maybe.
6,000. Yeah. So we have got a loss to the parish council, which we have to cover out of reserves, which is why you have reserves, of course. And the others are for some other capital projects that hopefully we will undertake in due course. But that's why that looks as it is. And as I'm here, I'll just stop. Oh, wait a minute. I wonder if I can do this and it will work. Page
Oh yeah.
6 is the external auditor.
Yeah,
That's just
to
blank.
be that's to be completed by the external auditors when they vetted it.
And then the bank reconciliation, and that's basically the numbers that were shown before. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody happy?
Yep. Cool.
Yep.
Right. I'll stop that share. And 8.3. I mean, have we already effectively covered this? I mean, we're just waiting.
Yeah, we're waiting. We've covered it. I think we've covered it in Clark's report.
I mean, the only thing that, and I have to say, I might need some ward councillor support on this. We have put in a claim for a lot of works that we've done to improve the physical infrastructure of the village. And they go around including things like street lights, litter bins, go on, Steve, you can mention some other things. I can't remember all the other things that were in there. Oh, restoning the car parking down at Station Road. Yeah,
new stone plinth.
Yeah, all sorts of things like that we put in, which actually, and with agreement from MKC that we could draw this down on S106. We put in a claim in May to draw the funds down because obviously MKC, for residents' information, MKC actually hold the S106 or planning gain funds, and then they make them available to parish councils. And we applied to get that money back, having spent it. It's about 30,000 or just over 30,000.
35, I think.
Yeah, and we're still struggling to get the attention. It's believe it or not, the email has gone missing in the post type things, which Steve mentioned earlier. I did mention it on the call today. We were actually on this call talking about, this is quite an interesting point actually. We were talking about the procedure around drawing S106 funds, which we think, the parishes think, has got very bureaucratic, and there's an awful lot of work now involved for clerks to draw down what is quite often simple sums. And I actually used an example of, we're doing some small work to improve the appearance, in the village. For example, we've done some work improving the conservation areas, street lights and litter bins and that sort of thing. John Palmer, who's the head of planning, said, well, we talk about the general case. He said, but just an aside, I actually don't think that, prettying up a village or prettying up a conservation area is a legitimate use of S106 funds. And he said, we'll talk about that separately. Now, we may, it depends whether they approve what we're doing here. I mean, this was all approved before, and the category is to improve, the physical infrastructure of the village. It's absolutely spot on for what it is.
Yeah.
So if we run into problems, I will be asking from some ward councillor assistants to extract these funds from them, which should come almost by return of return of mail, really. But has now been with them for, what's it, May, June, July, nearly 3 months. So it's not good.
That's absolutely fine. I mean, if they don't come up with it or you need us, you know where we are. If you spoke to Sarah Evans in the call yesterday, that's usually the way of getting things unlocked. However, I can't do any better than speak to Sarah, so you probably already sort of started it in train.
Yeah, no, she was on the call with John today. So anyway, so there we are. Right, correspondence. Is there any further correspondence? Steve?
No, I haven't received anything, Phil.
Any other business for noting or inclusion on a future agenda? We've got that Richard has reported that he's often clearing up black bags that are being left around the village. I don't know how we deal with this. I mean, I very much appreciate him doing it. I understand it's not his job, and I think it's very poor of villagers or not villagers. I mean, I believe there are people who drive. Dina tells me that there are people who drive up to the shop, get out with their car and put a whole load of rubbish out of their car into that bin, which Dina then has to clean.
And by the bus stop as well.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily villagers that are doing this, but as far as what Richard is reporting, I mean, does anyone want to suggest any action that we can reasonably take?
On the same subject, while I was putting the social distancing stuff out by the village hall today, somebody had dumped a whole load of polystyrene in the corral for the rubbish from where the bags go by the village hall. So, and I also went down the path bringing all the litter that's been thrown there, mainly sweet wrappers and kids' chocolate wrappers and things. And there was an awful lot of that as well.
I've picked up quite a lot from Castlethorpe.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, just as a general point, I was on a call with a lady called Emily Darlington last week. Now she's the cabinet member.
Excuse me, lady is not the right term to use when it comes to talking about Emily Darlington.
You're in public, Andrew.
Yeah, this is in public.
I don't care. I'm saying it as it is.
He has a lot of titles for sure.
Anyway, she
don't
is
wet yourself, Andrew.
Yeah, she is the cabinet member for Public Realm, which is responsible for a lot of this. And we were talking about impact of COVID, and that she was talking about the measures they're taking, including closing the tips, or more to the point, closing them, then reopening them on a schedule system. And I raised the question of fly tipping, and she actually said that there's been a remarkably small percentage increase in fly tipping. She said it was only 3%, which I do struggle to believe, given the amount that we've actually had in Castlethorpe. But she did say, and I think what Russell and John have just said is borne out by this, but there's been a huge increase across the borough in littering. I just don't understand, why that would be, why people would want to litter more, because of the situation that we're in. But she said that is the case. There we are.
I think, Chair, if I can help, that may be because there are so many more people around and, who aren't going away and aren't going out of Milton Keynes. There's also a huge number of more people using our green open spaces.
Yeah,
and
true.
What's happening is when you find a litter bin full, as you've discovered in Castlethorpe, you don't take your litter home. You dump the litter by the litter bin. That's classed as littering. And that's happening far more. So that may help to explain why she said what she said.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't think there's anything that we can do except, ask Richard to be kind to us. Right. I've got one item that's been raised with me for any other business. I don't know how many of you know Justin Lavender.
Start that again, please.
Justin Lavender. He lives over in Lodge Farm Court. And he and his wife are classical singers. They are doing a concert, an open air concert at Stowe, which is basically just to try and get the performing arts going again after COVID. So it's not in name of any particular cause, but they have, he's asked us if he can put up some signage, or a sign rather, in the village. He's got signs elsewhere. I believe he's agreed it in Hanslope somewhere, and somewhere else. I think they've got 3 or possibly 4 signs altogether. He said the sign he believes is about 5 foot by 4 foot. It is, and brace yourselves, everyone, sponsored by Michael Graham. And what he's asked is, can he put it on the triangle? And he wants to put it facing Hanslope to pick up that way. Now, I've got a feeling that we discussed something going on the triangle once before and weren't happy with it. And so I did say, well, if the council may agree with that, and that's what I'm asking you to consider now as the first thing. But if not, the verge, if you're coming from Hanslope and swinging round into Station Road, the verge widens just before the bridge, which is actually where I think that big signpost ought to be, because agricultural vehicles keep driving into it where it is, Andrew, don't they? There, I should think you could probably put up a sign if we don't want him to go on the triangle. I mean, I don't know what councillors' views are on that. Can I
just make the point, Chair, that this is kind of a decision, but in the interests of the local community, go ahead. But if anyone does complain in any way, I feel it ought to be taken down. But strictly speaking, this should be a resolution. It
should. Unfortunately, I mean, he only rang me at 5 o'clock this afternoon, so I mean, I couldn't do very much.
Like I say, in the spirit of community interest, then I don't mind blind eyeing it. But if anyone does complain, we can take it.
I mean,
straight
technically, none of this is actually our land anyway. It's Milton Keynes Council. So I just trying to see whether the council. And by the way, as an added spice for councillors and any residents that are watching this, apparently they practice every Wednesday and Thursday in his back garden at 6:30, I think it is, and you would get a very good earful from Castle Field. And I believe there are actually, I haven't seen them myself because I don't look at Facebook that much, but I believe that there are some Facebook posts extolling the wonders of this music.
There are. Just ask Oliver Sawbridge from last week. We've all decided that we're going to take a cold beer or a cold cider or something and sit in Castlefield or the churchyard on a Thursday night from now on and listen to it.
Yeah.
Are they the couple that gave the concert in the church?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Oh, they're excellent. They really are. Yeah, they're excellent.
Yeah, and they've done things for charity in the village before.
They have.
But there was a bit of criticism last time, if you remember. He put a sign up with our agreement on the white gates on Wolverton Road, and there were some complaints, and he was stung by that, and he did take it down, even though we'd said it was all right. And I did feel a bit bad about it, but anyway, I'm just asking: do councillors have an issue with it going on the triangle?
Chair, can I just ask a clarification? When you were saying not on the triangle, coming down the Hanslope Road, turning right onto Castlethorpe Road, whereabouts were you saying the sign should go?
Not Castlethorpe.
On the right-hand side, by Luke Stacy's, where the wide piece of grass is, and two chestnut trees and the one chestnut trees where the daffodils are. Correct, Phil?
No.
Right.
No, it's if you come down Hanslope Road,
that's it.
Continue onto Station Road.
That's it.
In a direction of Station Road.
Yeah.
Before you come to the bridge, the railway bridge. Okay. On the right, the verge is quite wide there. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think there would be room for the sign to go there.
That's what I'm on about.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about the other side by the where the BT boxes were.
No. If you turn right to go down Station Road on the white piece there, the two chestnut trees, one dead chestnut tree, and the daffodils where they usually grow on the grass.
Okay. All right. Well, look, I mean, are we happy with him putting it on the triangle?
Unless there's any complaints, we'll have to take it down.
Yeah. I'll warn him that it's not our land, but the parish council is okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and can you tell him, Phil, that if we get any complaints, then we'll have to take it down again?
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. I think that's. Has anyone else got any other business?
Any other business? Yes. I mean, we did cover this partly when I saw it in the clerk's report. People could not understand or didn't know what was happening with the Castlethorpe preschool with the equipment being sold off. Which was quite astounding to some people. They weren't informed or knew about what was going on. And the other one is going back to this letter that I had at the beginning of the meeting. I hope if they're listening in, they are quite capable of coming forward and putting a name to it, and don't put Ian and Martin, because it's nothing to do with me. So I hope they're brave enough to come forward, to put it forward, who they are. Because
Ian,
if they know my mother that well, she knew she'd got 4 children, not 2. Sorry.
Can I just repeat that they didn't? I redacted the name. They didn't. They did provide a name, but it's my practice to redact the name of any villager that writes to the parish council. Like you wouldn't want if somebody wrote to you.
If I wrote something, you got to put my name to it. Sorry.
Oh, look, we have discussed this. Steve redacted it.
As I said about preschool, a lot of people were dismayed. They didn't even know it was going on. I thought the reason we were converting the loft in the village hall to put all the preschool stuff upstairs ready for the next time. Hopefully it went forward.
Well, when we had our last meeting, we were hopeful that we were doing that, and we thought we were talking to preschool about this. We spent, we being Russell, Steve, and me, spent an absolute huge amount of time at the beginning of July, pretty much certainly the first week after that, trying to put different proposals to the preschool to try and avoid the equipment being sold and to try and ring fence the funds that they had. They eventually took legal advice on this and found that once they'd decided to close the preschool as a charity, they had no choice except to effectively realize all the assets and dispose of them to other early year learning groups. We were disappointed with that, and we had hoped that it is possible that we might have been able to do something if we'd engaged, or they'd engaged with us, really, because we thought we were engaging with them, prior to them making that decision. But once they'd made that decision, there is a legal track and nothing could change. Now, I really would ask you, Ian, not to raise this. There was a lot of ill feeling that came up, and a lot of villagers, particularly some of those associated with preschool, felt very almost bullied, by what was being done and what was being said. I think we ought to just, what's happened has happened. It's
People close the question to me. I'll put it in the parish council. Simple.
Yeah. Okay. Right. In that case, next parish council meeting is.
Oh, Phil, sorry. Can I just, if everybody else is finished, can I just put one point? It's only for noting, really. During the last meeting, we discussed the issue of housing and were there any kind of new. Do you remember you asked me to sort of explain about were there any new loopholes for coming in with something that was 100% affordable housing or anything else? And I said no. I hadn't entirely grasped what the application was all about at the Globe in Hanslope at that point in time. I now have, and I want to slightly caveat what I said at the last meeting. It doesn't refer to affordable housing per se, but it talks about entry-level housing, which is something slightly different. If you want all the details about what entry-level housing is, then on a night when you're suffering from insomnia, you might like to look at paragraph 70 of the National Planning Policy Framework, because that explains everything about what entry-level housing is. And I won't go into huge detail about it now, short of to say that I've done a fair bit of homework on it in the last fortnight. The broad practice is that entry-level housing can be used and applied for on open countryside, but if you've got an up-to-date neighbourhood plan or local plan, it's highly unlikely to be considered relevant, especially if you've got a neighbourhood plan that kind of doesn't mention it, doesn't talk about the need for it, and is sound and made safe. That said, the other critical point in it is that no application for entry-level housing should ever increase the settlement size by more than 5%. So in Castlethorpe's case, that'd be about 20 houses. You were worried about it being used on the Paddock Close site, which is 31 houses. So I don't think it would be how they apply for it, because the quantum of houses that they could realistically go for as a maximum certainly wouldn't cover what they're looking to do to cover their costs on it. So I won't go into massive detail about what entry-level housing is. I say paragraph 71 of the MPPF is where you want to look if you're really looking for a riveting read one evening. But I don't think there's a major threat to you at the moment. But there is something there that is something completely different to what I thought we were talking about last time.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrew. Do you know, at the risk of displaying myself as a very, very sad person, I have actually read NPPF from end to end, but I can't remember paragraph 74 offhand. But
paragraph 71. Paragraph 71 is if you haven't read the updated version in 2018. Then that was when paragraph 71 came in. So you may not be right up to date. So you may need to be slightly more sad and go and read the last 3 additional paragraphs.
Well, I think it was actually updated February 2019 again. But anyway, there we go.
I'm waiting for the film.
Right.
The danger of it is, as Andrew knows, is that it is a form of deemed planning consent. So if they put these applications in, they can go through on the nod. And that's why you have to be really careful of them.
Yeah, I think that's probably why Dorothy was concerned. But anyway, let's move forward then. If no one's got any other business, so the next parish council meeting is Monday, September the 7th. Residents, I hope any of you who are still with us have found the meeting informative and that your questions.
10 people, no, 11 people have made it to the bitter end.
Well done.
Congratulations.
That can't be bad.
I bet they're not some of the 11 that started.
I think actually most of them have gone off to get the NPPF so they can read paragraph.
Yeah. So I do think, I mean, it is important that parish councils, are open to the public, and we have, tried new methods to make sure we have got public participation in the open forum as well this time. So if you've got any comments on how the meeting has gone, please do put them on the Facebook page or send them to any of us. And we'll see if there are different ways in which we can further improve what we're doing. I do think, I mean, it's a personal thing, but I do think that we're in for this remote meetings for the long haul. I think it could be quite a long time before we are going to feel comfortable, meeting physically, when actually many aspects of the meeting I think can be carried out more efficiently. Such as, sharing the documents as we go to the members of the public, whereas in the village hall, quite often if there's more than about 2 or 3 people there, Steve runs out of copies of hard printed paper to share with them. So I think some aspects are much better done this way. Okay, we're now going to switch off the Facebook feed and the YouTube feed. Live stream. So thank you very much, everyone. And we'll now move into part 2 of the meeting.